Hello and welcome to Friendships That Flourish, the podcast, where we dive into the intricacies of building and nurturing meaningful connections that stand the test of time. Join us as we explore the dynamics of friendship, sharing inspiring stories, and uncovering actionable tips for fostering deeper and more fulfilling friendships. Today, I am your host and friend, Regina Nicole, and today on the couch, I have Ani K with me. I am super excited. I've been waiting for this one. Ani K, how are you?
I am good. I'm super excited too. I'm excited to see how this conversation will flourish.
Yes, me too. I felt like this would be like a perfect topic for us. And so once again, thank you for today. I know we had to do some rescheduling and things, but we made it work. So Thank you. I want to jump right in. And so I like to ask all of my friends that come on the couch, tell me what it means to you to have a friendship that is flourishing.
Great question. When it's flourishing, I think it needs to make sure that it's feeding both or all parties involved, not just a one-sided nourishing or nurturing. And yeah, I think that would be the biggest thing, is that whoever is involved in the friendship should be getting the nourishment or the nurturing that they need from that particular friendship.
That's good. How do we... Yes, follow up. So how should that be approached by the friend or the all parties involved?
I would say it varies. So we all know very much like siblings, friends, when they're real friends. My friendship circle is very small. So with that being said, one friend may need something that another friend has no regard for.
Right.
And so
That's
when
good.
I say that it's flourishing, so if my friend that I know needs to have an ear, then I have to understand that I have to be a very active listener. Yes, that's important across the board to all friendships, but that one friend who needs that keen, like, you're my soundboard.
Right.
Then I have to know how that works for that person. On the other end, the other person may need more of advisement. Like, they want more of a, an advisor.
Right.
Like, one person might need, I just need to sound it off on you. You don't even have to say much.
Right.
Another friend might, no, I need your feedback. Like, what's going on? So I think just knowing the necessary ingredients, nutrients, vitamin, mineral, whatever that is, like any plant, you need to know not every plant needs this much potassium, not every plant needs that much magnesium. You have to know.
No, yeah. For sure.
And you do that by being intentional with the friendship. And that's why my circle is so small, because investing in that takes time, and it's a relationship.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. That's good. You brought out some good points about, it makes me think about, so the title of the podcast, Friendships That Flourish, and the question. And so you talk about nutrients and nurturing. And I'm like, yeah, that is a thing for any relationship.
Any relationship.
But specifically with friendships, like understanding what that means to have to nurture and being able to serve all parties the way that they need. Like you mentioned, like somebody may just need you to give them advice. Like that is what they need. They're like they're very clear. They're like, hey, tell me what you think.
Yes.
Right. And then another person's like, I don't need your advice. I just need you to listen, because I need to like get this off my chest.
Do a brain dump. Definitely.
Yeah, and that definitely turns my wheels, because I have had situations where people are like, what's your feedback? And I don't want to give feedback. I'm going to be honest. I'm like, you don't need any more feedback. What you need to do is hear yourselves talk out loud and process all of these emotions and thoughts, and then you have your answer. So you just learned me, as the older people say. You just learned me with that. Yeah,
I'm here for it. And I think that's beautiful, as what you just said, though, because sometimes we go to our friends expecting them to give a role, but sometimes that friend can't give us the role that they're looking for.
Yeah.
And so if you are not the feedback person, then they have to respect your gift of what it is that you do give to them that helps them flourish. And they can't deplete you by putting you in a space that is only going to end up depriving them in the first place, because I'm not giving you an authenticity of myself. I'm giving you something that you want, but it can't come organic, because I'm not here to that's not how I feed you. You might got to go to Nikki for that one.
Right.
You come to me for the other stuff. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, once again, it's whether you look at it metaphorically as a plant or even as a relationship, whether like a sibling, and even a level of intimacy, because it takes work.
Right.
It takes
for
work
sure.
in that department.
That's good. I gotta add that to my little box of responses. So, so today we are talking about like setting boundaries in friendships, what that looks like, how do we do it, things not to do, whatever. And so, let's jump right into that. Let's start with like identifying what it is. What are boundaries? You know, like what do you when you think about setting boundaries? Like what are boundaries, and how do we, why do we need those to even navigate our friendships?
Right. So I'm a visual learner.
Okay.
So for all my visual learners out there,
let's do it.
It's important to and then let me preface real quick.
Okay.
Because we got to go back to the dictionary. I know we're in the 21st century.
Right.
Make them word. We take a word, make up a whole new definition. No ma'am, no pound. No ham, no egg, no cheese, no turkey. So when it comes to boundary, from a visual aspect, what I immediately think of is property lines or state lines.
Yeah.
And once you cross over that line, rules change, policies change, things are different, different names.
That's good.
And so with that being said, when it comes to friendships, you have to have those boundaries. And it's not in any relationship, you must have that. You have to have it parent to child. You have to have it teacher to student. It's just, we have endless relationships, but particularly focusing on friendships, we must know our boundary, going back to what you said when you say, not being able to give feedback or not wanting to give feedback. That could be a boundary that, hey, I'm an active listener for you. If I chime in and give you feedback, it may be a rarity. Don't have that expectation of me, because in that sense, the value of my love to you is in a different realm than the one that you may desire from me. And so having that boundary where we can respect each other, I think is important, because once again, it allows not only a flourishing to happen, but a respectful respectful stance to kind of keep our relationship mended, I guess, in a sense, or health in a healthy way. Binding.
I like the analogy you use, visual learner, that's the teacher in you as well. With like state lines and property lines, it makes me think about like in the yard, right?
Yes.
And so my neighbor has a fence there, and so I am thinking about putting a fence there. And I'm like, but I want to make sure that when I put this fence up, I am doing it within my property line.
There you go.
That when it's up, nobody's going to tell me I got to come move it 4 inches to the left because I've overdid it or whatever. And so I think that's the reason that this topic is so important for me is because a lot of times, like, friends don't talk in general about the meat of friendship.
Right.
So let's just put that out there. But the idea of like, oh, there are boundaries. Like, yeah, there are boundaries. I think a lot of times when friendships end or there's like a breakdown in communication or whatever, it is simply because their boundaries were never established or set in the beginning. And a lot of times I've heard people tell me, I didn't even know that was a thing. I didn't even know that I could have boundaries in this relationship with you.
Right.
And I'm like, huh?
Right. Well, I can understand exactly that. I'll double back a little bit. I think some friendships are complete because it's the season. It's just time.
Which is a boundary.
That's very true. But sometimes it's organic. It's even when you're not ready for it. Sometimes
this is true.
There are friendships that, we've been friends, we've been rocking since kindergarten. And guess what? Y'all seen y'all teeth fall out, but you got braces now. And now it's time for you to go this way. They still on the creek. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it's one of the, I'm a visual learner, y'all too.
Yeah.
So it's like we
struggle.
struggle with that, oh, this is it. You know what I'm saying? Because I have some friendships along that journey. Like, oh, I thought we would, you know what I'm saying? We're going to be out here like old age, gray hairs, like going to play bingo. That's not what it is. Sometimes they come to a completion and that's okay. But then when you were speaking on the other part of people not knowing about boundaries, most of us don't know because I think one of our least favorite subjects taught is communication. And yes, they teach it in a sense of language and all of that, but I'm talking about communication is way more than just verbal or written or oral. It starts as a feeling. You know what I'm saying? And when we don't even know how to discuss our feelings, how can you discuss what a boundary is when you're not even comfortable discussing how you feel?
This is good.
And so I think when we get to those fundamental understandings of what true communication looks like for self, it starts to then show up in those other areas, whether that's once again with any relationship, but focusing on friendship, you then become very comfortable with saying, hey, this works for me and this doesn't. And that's, to me, is when you get to that healthy, and sometimes it feels unhealthy, but you're working through the pruning of that part so that flourishing can happen again, because pruning is necessary.
Yeah. So two things. Your communication, definitely, like being able to articulate it. And I will echo your sentiments about like the self-work is important, because then you can, in a good space, healthy space, you can then articulate this to the other party or all parties involved, to be able to say like, hey, this doesn't work for me right now. Or like just recently I was telling James, I'm like, I had to tell a friend like, hey, in this space right now, life is so heavy and so weighty. I can't take lead in our friendship like I have been. And not only take lead, but I took lead just organically, because that's also probably how we became friends, because I took lead.
Right.
And because I can no longer take lead in this space, that is uncomfortable for the other party, which is like, you abandoned me. And I'm like, no, I didn't abandon you.
Right.
I'm just not lead, which means that nobody might not be lead right now. We just kind of out here together. And that is also something that I mentioned. Another friend, like we both experienced losing somebody in the same time frame, and the friend is basically like, I can't ask you to be here for me. And I'm like, nope, we're gonna do this together. That is the only way I knew. I'm like, I know that you need support, and so I'm grieving and you grieving. We're gonna lay here and grieve together and cry and check in, and we committed to that. And that was a level of like setting boundaries and parameters around, like we were communicating what we believe we could and could not do, and how we like, this might be the best way to do it. So yeah, the communication is key. And then there was one other thing I forgot. We'll come back to it. Okay. So let's jump into how have you set boundaries? So let's talk about like, what does that look like? How have you done it the right way, not done it the right way, whatever you want to share.
Okay. If I had to explain my boundaries, it's first about me. I deal a lot on self-ships, is what I call your relationship with self. And so, because you are the common denominator, no matter where you're in the boardroom or if you're in the bedroom or, you out with your friends, you are the common denominator. And so you must first learn to communicate to yourself, because a lot of people are pretty much head up or neck up, analyzing and trying to find logic behind everything, and your heart is telling you way more, but you're still trying to figure it out up here, and it doesn't work. And so going back to self and communicating for me is, okay, Ani, what is it that you want? And I break it down in any expectation, whether that's my boundary for me and my child is totally different from my boundary with me and my mama, which is totally different from what's going to be with my friends. And so once I figure out what I want, so if it's, hey, this is what I need from my friend. I need my friend to be people who pray with me. I need people who will celebrate me and my wins. I need people who I can lean on. And it's not like I'm going to go and be like, hey, you got to do this and this and this, and this. You know what I mean? But I know that is flourishing for me. Those are the nutrients that I need. Now, is it going to look exactly the same in each friend? No. And one friend, they may give me small increments of spirituality or prayer and things like that. Then I have another friend who are praise the heavens down. You get what I'm saying? But either way, however that nutrients comes, I receive. And then so to fully, hopefully I'm answering your question, when it comes to that level of communication, I think it has to start with self, because you can't bring someone else into your universe until you have decided on what is welcomed in my universe.
Right. I like that. I like that because I was having a conversation with my nieces, separate conversations, but much of the same context. And they always ask me like, how do you have these friends, you live such this vibrant life, blah blah blah, and how do you decision make and blah blah blah. And so I always tell them, I'm like, you got to identify the things that you value,
Right.
because the things that you value helps guide every decision. It should.
Right.
Right? Like there are things that we don't value, but we still kind of play with it or whatever. And so that's a whole nother thing. But for me, it's like it adds to your comment about like knowing what to invite in your universe. Like
Right.
it's like I want to have a peaceful atmosphere and environment. And I remember recently a friend reached out to me and she's like, "Can me and my family come?" And I'm like, "You and the children can come. Your spouse cannot." Not because I want to separate them.
Right.
But I was like, and I had a conversation.
You had to choose you.
I'm right. I'm like, I want to support you. And if this is the way that if this is the answer to supporting you, I'm all for it.
Absolutely.
But I cannot allow someone in my universe, based off of the things that I value, to come in here and disrupt things, because now that's going to cause an issue with you and I.
Mm-hmm.
And so to protect myself, my peace, my universe, and all of the things, I'm like, here's my best solution for you. You don't have to take it, but I'm being honest up front.
Right.
So that you know what it is.
Baby. And the problem be,
right,
when I set that boundary,
listen,
you come across state lines, that property tax change. The taxes go up when you act up, okay?
Right. And so... The person, she was like, you know what? I appreciate you for being honest. And I'm like, I have to. Because it hurts me if I say yes and then you come and your spouse blow up on me.
And now you're inside of yourself like self.
Like I should have did this differently.
Right.
Or do I say something now?
Right.
But it's like, nope, let me go ahead and put the cards all out on the table. Like, this is what we working with. What you say when you come over to the property line?
The taxes go up, baby, when you act up. So, don't act up because the tax go up.
Yeah.
Okay?
So, no, that's big. I like that. Like, it's helping me to even like process and think about some things, because it is definitely, I hear so many times where people are like, it's a new year, I'm cutting people off. And I'm not saying that isn't a thing. Like, even when you mentioned earlier, like sometimes people's time is just up and it can still be very much painful. Absolutely. However, I don't believe that people are out here really being clear and really being that like
abrupt and just cutting it off.
For me, I'm like, like you doing this because for one, you put it on social media, so you sending a subliminal message to somebody that you want to see this, so that they can call you because you
not on the friendship, on the pettyship,
right? So I'm like, come on now, like I'm all for those things if that's what it is, but I'm like, no, like when we get to the meat of it, we never like you ever even set your boundaries with yourself, like you said.
Right.
Nor did you communicate them effectively to anybody.
Yes.
You just like, this don't work for me, boom. And it's always in friendships, because it's like, oh, it's just easier to cut a friend off because we don't need a friend. When for me, the whole purpose of these conversations is because I'm like, friendships really do carry us through life. Yes, definitely. You have your parents or whomever, your auntie, the grandparents. But I'm like, especially for those of us who we may leave from home, or we may like meet people in the workplace or whatever it is. I'm like, it's your friends at your wedding. Yes, you might have a big family. Yeah. But your friends be here at the table and they could answer all the questions about you. Or like some of my most intimate things about myself, this is no knock to my family. Yeah. My friends can answer these questions.
They're your keepers.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm like, why aren't we setting the boundaries so that we can like make sure that this friendship is being nurtured and watered and all of the things. So that's good. All right. So we talk about boundaries in friendships. And so I want to get into like, how do you best communicate this?
How do you best communicate?
At any level of the friendship, because we could always say, oh, it should start at the beginning. But if, for example, if you and I had met in second grade and we're still friends now, I didn't know boundaries in second grade.
Right.
So how do
the only boundaries you knew was hugs and bubbles. Be quiet. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. So what the Bible verse say? I might butcher it, but you know what I'm saying? I went to Sunday school here and there, but something about when you was a child, you spake as a child and all of that. So I'm with you on that. And then when you grow up, you got to do a little better. That wasn't the Bible verse. I remixed it. Ani K version. Okay, not King James. Ani K version.
You the Eugene Peterson. That's the message. So that's like the urban version of the Bible.
There you go. I'll take it. But yeah, so I think there's no perfect way. Waiting for perfection or like the perfect timing, you can try to analyze it. I don't knock anybody for trying to do it. I have been there trying to do it. But at the end of the day, sometimes it might come out a little ugly. And depending on, I'll never forget, let me say this. I'll never forget my best friend, Jeff. Our friendship was established at Eugene J. Butler Middle School, best middle school in the world. Okay, go Falcons. Okay. But yeah, so it started in middle school. And it was always a good friendship, middle school, high school, even though we didn't go to the same high school. So he was a Viking, I was over at A. Randolph. But we stayed connected. When it was time to go to college, he was still in Jacksonville. I left to go to Savannah. And so it was a new time for me to learn myself because now I'm having to keep up with schedules and this and that and that and this. So we weren't talking as much, you know what I'm saying? We weren't engaging as much. And then I'll never forget when we did have a moment to get caught up. He reached out and he was like, "Hey man, I don't like this." And I was like, what's wrong? Like, what happened? And he just came straight out with it. Yeah. It wasn't no Deepak Chopra. Right. It wasn't no Oprah. It was straight to it. Like, I'm giving it to you grandpa style. I don't like this. You go to Savannah, you acting brand new. But what I heard, my thing was, I was good at listening.
I miss my friend.
And understand what he was really saying.
Yeah.
This ain't flourishing. Yeah. You get what I'm saying? It's not flourishing. And if we don't put no work into it, it's definitely pulling us apart. You know what I'm saying? And so depending on your ability to understand what's being said, but also what's not being said is important in sometimes friendships because anger or frustration or irritation can sprout itself. Yeah. But at the root of it is, I don't want to lose you, or I like what we had, what happened to it.
Or I miss you.
Yes,
like,
there's
I feel
a sentiment.
Neglected. Yeah.
Exactly. Now, I'm not talking about somebody just being off the handle, totally disrespectful. Yeah. But just because it may have a tone or an eye roll or whatever, that does not mean that it's not love being communicated. Right. And so that's why when I say you can't, there's no perfect way of doing it. That's what I mean. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, if it's meant to be written in a letter because that's your best way and you want to sound, you want to make sure you edit your stuff and all that, do what works for you. Right. But if it means that I need to say, hey, man, what's going on? Like what's I ain't up? Vibing. Like, period. Meet me at the square. If that's how it is, then that's how it is. And it must be respected because once again, Love can show up with a little aggression. Love and caring does show up. I know we're in this, this world of everything being all, woosah and all of that. But when Rafiki hit Simba above the head, it was a knock some sense into him. Like, who are you? You know what I'm saying? Like, so sometimes love and guidance comes with a little bit of aggression if you can see through it and see what the true foundation of it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's good too because, again, like you said, like he shared it and articulated the best way that he could. Exactly. And you were able to translate, basically.
Exactly.
And sometimes that is where the gap happens.
Exactly.
The breakdown, rather, happens in communication because it's like, I told you, and you did it. And I'm like, yes, I did. And
exactly.
And so I love that you brought that out, like being able to, it's almost, I always say when we show up in conversations, we have to create a little bit of space to hear the other person, right? Mm-hmm. Like, yes, we have our grievances, but I'm like, it can't just be me coming to talk to you and you're like, I have feelings too, or this. Exactly. Like, I have to be able to say, here are my grievances, but here's also room for you to share yours so that we can try to get an understanding.
That's beautiful.
And I think that's very helpful because I don't know that happens all the time where like, because sometimes people feel attacked. Like, I'm trying to establish, like, we've never had boundaries before. We didn't even know we needed them, right? Like, things were fine. But here we are, you're away, I'm here. Were cell phones out then when you first went to college?
What they call me after 9?
The snake,
Okay,
right? So
call
like I
me
gotta wait till after 9, but my mama not
Right.
gonna let me use the landline phone after 7.
Right,
and
it was still long distance.
Yes,
like,
and it's
what?
long distance and it's charging me. So it was like that played a part in that too. So yeah, that's good because I remember having a conversation with a friend probably months after a situation, and the friend is like, we need to meet up and talk. I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. And I came into the conversation like I didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
Now, the Regina now being able to, that wasn't me then. I'm like, I didn't do anything. This all you. And so it was very difficult for the person to share because I wasn't trying to hear anything. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And eventually we end up having to have another conversation. But now when the conversation has happened years later, I am able to hear the person. And I'm like, I hear you. I hear all of your concerns and grievances.
And you see all that imperfection right there.
Right.
That's why it's no perfect way because we never know all the variables, all the noise that's in the background in our own psyche, in our own situation, in their psyche, in their situation, all the other variables that are around. And so looking for that perfect thing, you'll be looking for a long time. And at the end of the day, I think the goal is to get it out. So if that's like, hey, meet me at the park, and we won't say nothing besides just sit next to each other, and then eventually we get to saying something. You know, like
it definitely takes a level of vulnerability.
You have to be vulnerable
because
have to be.
Me coming to the table and we both mad when. What we really want to say is like, I miss that we no longer get together on Wind Down Wednesdays, but we're like pouting,
right?
FaceTime.
You acting brand new because you got this and
right, and like you started this new job and now I'm not your friend anymore. And I'm like, what are you? The job? Like, what?
Right.
So it definitely takes a level of like, okay, let me calm down, which is why like you hear people say like, you have to be able to. Your emotions, like get a handle on it. And a lot of times, sometimes you can't. Like
I'm on the fence.
But listen, I told somebody today, like I work really hard to like self-control. And so for me, I am always like, it takes me a while to respond.
Right.
Most people don't like that because they like, you were supposed to pop off 8 days ago. I'm like, it took me 15 days to come down so that I can have a conversation with you.
A productive conversation.
Right.
Because we can have a conversation, but I'm telling you, baby, ain't going right. And see, that's what I'm learning. She can see,
you ready
know, baby, I'm an Aries, Taurus.
Yeah.
Baby, that Ram and Bull, that's going to handle this thing,
yeah,
man.
like for me, it's real, it's a thin line.
That's,
like, actually, I'm in a space
maturity.
Now, and the person reached out to me, let's say 3 days ago.
Mm-hmm.
And yesterday I responded and I was like, hi, I've received all of your messages. I will follow up with you tomorrow to address them. The person immediately called me like 4 times. I didn't answer because now you overstepping this property line.
The property line, the tax go up.
Right, because I told you to give me till tomorrow. I can't even tell you a time.
Like, because you don't even know if I'm in here doing I'm your radio cure. Jesus, come sit with me. Like,
so it's, you know, that has been a whole thing. But no, that's really good because I think that, you know, sometimes we look for like, okay, step 1, step 2, step 3, when really it's like, you got to be open and vulnerable.
Open and vulnerable.
And sometimes being open means that, you know, if I'm open, it means that if it takes Regina 30 days, if I am vested enough, I got to give her that.
Right.
Now, Ani is like, I ain't waiting 30 days. I'm going to tell you this happened 20 seconds ago. I'm ready to talk now, right? But the boundary may be like, no, because if I respond in the same manner, we will walk away from this with nothing being accomplished.
Nothing.
Like, we won't even hear each other's side because the fumes are so heavy and it's like, you got it, I'm out.
Right. And see, that for me, your boundary of, hey, depending on how deep this situation goes, I'm going to need time because if I don't have time, I might pop off and it's irreversible.
Yeah.
And so that I understand. To communicate that would be my thing. Like, hey, I'm going to need some time. before we can even speak, because right now I'm trying to, you know, really
That's good.
give room to this, so that way when we do talk, it can be in love and respect and things of that sort. And so for me as a person, even though I'm very immediate, because my biggest thing is it will have to be such a deep rooted issue for it to take a few days for me, because I forget stuff. Like, because I'm over it, because I'm one of them people like, okay, let me get it off me real quick. And it's over with. And then Timmy's like,
that's
girl,
your
what you
personality
doing?
though. Yeah.
Yeah, what
See,
you doing?
I am a little like, it could linger.
Right.
Now I have gotten better that it doesn't linger for too long.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, my dad is an Aries, and he definitely will be on the phone, and I'll say something, and he's like, I'm getting upset, I'm about to go.
Period.
I don't
And
want him to go though.
minutes.
I'm like, no, let's finish right now, right? But then on the reverse side, like for other stuff, and I believe I do this because I'm I'm a person where I am vested from the moment I say yes to myself.
Yes.
So with all of the challenges, I'm like, I could ride the wave depending on what it is, because in my mind, I'm like, we could do this. So when I need that time, I'm like, give me my time. But I have to also understand, like, some people, they're short fuse. They're like, I don't know. They're vested probably the same way. It looks different.
Yes, definitely.
Like they're like, how it took you a whole week? I'm like, because you want me to have my week. Trust me.
Right.
Like, you want to give me my week, because otherwise you could like delete that you ever even knew me. And that ain't the way to go. So it's like, no, let's give Regina her week. Let her kind of do her little whatever it is, write it out, do her journaling or whatever. So no, that's good.
And so after that, if you don't mind me asking, after that, is it that you have to double back and say, well, let's talk about the event that happened a week ago? Or is it you just need to process it and now it's done and we're moving forward?
No, depending on what it is, we do need a conversation.
Okay.
Like, conversation is important for me. Mm-hmm. And I've had to understand that it's not always important for the other parties, but for me it is, because I want to know where we stand. Because even if I let it go and we don't have a conversation,
it's still lingering with you.
Well, not that it's still lingering, but then what?
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, depending on what it is, I don't get my conversation. So now I got to guesstimate on what, like, we good? No.
Right.
I'm like, no. Now I'm not sharing my latte with you. Like, before, yes. Now,
because I lost the latte.
I mean, because it's like, I let you sit in it. And sometimes I have learned, too. I'm like, okay, sometimes it doesn't require a conversation. Like, because for some people, it's like, I had my moment with us not saying anything, or with you having your time, and they're like, oh, I forgot about it.
Right.
And I think that comes with like knowing the person. Like, I have a lot of my friends that I'm really close with, stuff don't linger with them as long as it might linger with me.
Right.
I know their personalities, but I also feel like I know them to a degree, right? But then no, there have been times with people where it's been a month or two, and when we come back around, I'm like, we need to have a conversation. The love is still there, but I'm like, what happened with this? And they're like, really? I'm like, yes, I want to know. Because I need to know how to navigate this if this happens again. Because see, if this happens one too many times outside of the one time, I don't know that we're going to bounce back. Like,
right.
Because it leaves this gap. And when there's a gap, I've been saying it's like, I then create stuff. I'm like, oh, so this, and this was there. And
right.
So for me, I'm like, At some point, I want to.
Right.
I'm like, let's go. Yeah.
Okay. I was just wondering, because I'm that friend that be like, tell me what happened again. Unless it's like, once again, if it's deep rooted,
that's what I'm saying.
Then
it depends on what it is.
Right.
Like, for
but
me,
if it's deep rooted, then I totally understand.
It's not like, I don't consider myself like a petty person, right?
Right.
But I'd be like, so we just gonna act like
that never happened.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, if you stole my money from me, now we need a conversation.
Oh, we got a whole conversation, because that's ethics.
Right, but it's like, if we're out somewhere and you kind of had bad energy, I'm like, that's Ani.
Right.
Ani was having a bad day.
Too many Mai Tais.
Right. I'm like, you might have called me something, but I'm like, did she just say that? I told her that in confidence. I'm like, it's whatever. That's different.
Gotcha.
Unless you really cutting up. Otherwise, no, I'm not going. But stuff that's really important and deep,
revisit.
No, you don't get to slide on this one. No. So
that makes sense.
Yeah, it's tough out here. So yeah, I so what I have taken away is like being able to that there's no like one step or two step, but like in the moment or whatever the situation is, being able to kind of go with what it is, like being open to what the boundary settings look like.
Yes.
And I think also I'm going to reiterate like being able to evolve with what boundaries are, because sometimes people are like, well, 3 years ago you were doing it this way and now it's changing. I'm like, yeah, that people get to change.
Oh, most definitely.
But like you said, like
change
communicate
must
it.
happen.
Yeah.
And I was talking to somebody, but I remember saying, if we are to have forever, then you must be willing to start over with me again and again and again. To me, that's where forever comes from.
Yeah.
Because you can't, there is literally, and I always go back to the plant, because before God created man, he had already had everything set for us. And I think nothing speaks community than grass, plants, trees. It just speaks and lives and breathes community. And nothing stays the same. Something that starts as an acorn shall become an oak tree. Don't think because you've seen me get massive that I don't offer greater nutrients to you, or don't think I've changed so much. You know what I mean?
You be preaching, girl, a little bit.
All right then, bless it. But that's a part of forever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I like that.
And you must be willing, because everybody wants to sell the forever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like everybody stopped at the happily ever after, man. So much went on after that. You know, and you had to be willing to understand the story got a little deeper. There was some more dragons for them to fight, because now they together.
Yeah.
You know, Snow White was asleep at first, then Buddy, you know, kissed all that, and you with the it's happily ever after.
Right.
Man, it's the after.
Yeah.
And if we gonna get the forever part, we gotta start over again.
It should really read after happily.
You hear me?
But it says happily ever after, when it should be the other way around.
And it just it's everybody hunting for that forever, but don't nobody want to start over.
Yeah.
Because I'm growing out here, and life has happened to you and life has happened to me. When I met you, you had your mom and your dad. We're now 5 years on the journey. You done lost both of them. That means a piece of you is gone, and we got to start all over again.
Yeah, that's
so yeah.
true.
So I think the journey of forever comes in when you are open, as you said, to leave me grace and room to expand as I leave you grace and room to expand, because this journey of humanity, being an art teacher, hue means color, you know, but in the scientific world, HU means gold. So in order for me to truly sparkle in my humanity, give me room to expand.
Yeah.
Give me room and give yourself room, and we grow in this thing.
Yeah.
And that's where, to me, we get the forever.
Yeah. And that could be lost in friendship too, because when you were talking about that, it makes me think about in friendships how like sometimes friends can be territorial of each other.
Yes. Because I'm territorial.
Really?
That's my friend, boo. Wait.
Honey.
Hold up. Because I'm quitting.
But so here's what's
territorial.
interesting about that. I would
am.
have never coined that for you, because I met you through my cousin.
Mm-hmm.
And I always tell people how like this particular cousin, like a lot of her friends that I've met that I've still communicate with, I'm like, okay, so the caveat to all of y'all is that y'all either like people or you don't.
Period.
And so I'm like, well, I've met all of them, and I'm like, they embrace me even when she's not around.
Yeah, because you family.
And
you family, and you're loving.
But I also had to remember that the way that she kind of dotes on me is also the way that you guys embrace me. Because I've been in spaces that I'm like, ooh, they can't come back. Not because of me, but because of y'all.
Ooh.
Y'all as in the friends. I'm like, they don't rock with them like that. But I'm like, so I wouldn't have never coined you as being like a territorial friend. But
I share, but I just make people know that's my friend.
Right.
That's all. But I share.
I am a person where like I have been that way before. These days, I don't have the energy. Like my friends are like, I'm very vocal about like how I esteem people, right?
Right.
And so some of my friends are like, don't do that. But I don't know that I'm territorial, but I'm very like, this is my person, or this person gonna do this.
Right.
So
I'm territorial. I can't even
like,
lie.
that's my friend.
That's my friend.
my friend. Who are you? Who are you?
Right. But I'm not possessive. I think it's a slight difference. You know what I'm saying?
Difference.
It's like it's like that thin line between love and hate.
So do you have a boundary for that? Like your boundary is like, my friends are my friends, and I'm
one of these people.
sharing.
So for instance, it's kind of even like that with my siblings. But when you're in my friend circle, so of course, one of my best friends is a guy. So let's say somebody comes in and be like, hey, oh, your best friend Q, he nice. I'm telling you now, baby, that's my friend. Whether he do you wrong, do you right, do you clean, do you dirty, that's my friend. You know what I'm saying? So you at that point must skate.
Okay.
So that's kind of what I mean when I say I'm territorial. I'm going to stand by him. I might go in the corner and say, boy, you did it dirty. That was wrong.
Right, but that's your friend.
We representing the united front in these streets. Right. That's the way it goes. That's my friend. So yeah, it's kind of like that. When we together, we're together, you know, right, wrong, and different. Yeah, you have the right to check me. I have the right to check you. Yeah. And anybody else who kind of enters into that space where you kind of sometime me, won't do hokey pokey over here. So that's pretty much.
Let me tell you how much I love you. Okay, I just want you to know. I appreciate you for coming.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Yes,
I totally enjoyed it.
Been very heartwarming for me. Nutrients to my soul.
Yes,
definitely have to do this again. But yeah, I appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate you too.
All right, so as we conclude Friendships That Flourish and this episode of talking about setting boundaries, we're reminded of the value of authentic connections and enriching our lives and fostering a sense of belonging. I want to encourage you to take what we talked about today and apply it to your own friendships and space. Thank you for listening. Stay connected. Ani, tell us how we can get connected with you.
Well, I'm doing a little rebranding right now, but if you want to subscribe to the YouTube channel, you can do at the Ani Kashawn. Kashawn is spelled K-A with the normal Sean with the S-H-A-W-N. I'm trying to get more on Insta. Okay. You know, I'm trying to get out the old lady vibe of Facebook only, you know, but hey, I like what I like. That's also at the Ani Kashawn on Instagram and Facebook.
All right. Well, you guys support her as she is rebranding. Some good things coming. She's a dope human being. And again, stay inspired. Again, follow us on Friends That Flourish on Instagram and YouTube. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Friendships That Flourish, the podcast with your host, Regina Nicole. Be sure to follow us on all social media platforms and be sure to listen to us on YouTube, Apple Music, and Spotify. Don't forget to email us any of your topics and questions at friendsthatflourish@gmail.com.